Hi, everyone. I'm Kim, and I'm here with Lee, Shira, and Juji. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. We started this show in response to the pandemic. We've been enjoying these conversations so much that we will continue spreading our message and sharing different perspectives. We are so excited to announce that the name of our show will now be A New View. I know. As humans, our minds tend to skew towards the negative. Sometimes this negativity makes us focus on people's bad qualities over their good ones. Sometimes it's a subconscious way to boost our own egos. Perhaps it's also a way to feel we protect ourselves from getting hurt. The good news is we can start practicing seeing the good in others. Given that we're in constant interaction with our fellow human beings, this is a habit that we feel is worth cultivating. So, ladies, no one talks about this or teaches this. Why do you think that is?
I mean, there are lots of things that we don't teach about, and I think it's about time we do. This is definitely one of those things that is a practice because we're so hardwired to look at people the other way. Like we see a lot of social media pointing out flaws, and even we ourselves like do that subconsciously where we're like, oh, why is she wearing that? Or that person's such a this. And like we're just always looking for the negative. We literally have to intentionally shift that. It's not easy, but it's doable.
Well, I think when we're young, like very young, the way that we're taught to interact with other people as children is where they try to teach us things like empathy. So, like, you don't physically hurt someone else because you don't want somebody to hurt you, and like really basic things like that. And so we sort of grow up with this. Thought process that what we do affects how other people feel, and in turn we allow others to affect how we feel, because very infrequently do we have the opportunity to learn how to like tap into our own inner resources to find the good in ourselves. So if we don't know how to do that, then how can we find the good in other people? It's just like skewing negative in both directions in a lot of ways.
So true. I feel like in many cases it's almost a more of a natural instinct to be critical of others, and it may also potentially be that that is something we may not like about ourselves, kind of like a mirror reflection of the things that we judge and the things that we criticize. But yeah, there needs to be some kind of a shift made, you know, with that awareness of like finding the good, and sometimes no matter how challenging it might be.
Mm.
Well, I mean, we are human projectors, right? We've talked about projection in the past where we put onto others it's just a way to play hot potato. It's like you feel crappy inside, so you just like throw the hot potato to someone else. So it's like Kim said in the intro, it's like a way to deflect and to avoid, but you really have to put that mirror up to yourself and go, wow, maybe I'm not seeing the good in others because I feel so shitty about myself. You gotta there's a day of reckoning. But when you do that, you really can start to turn things around very slowly. It's a process.
Yeah. I remember one of the first times I've thought about this was many moons ago. I actually was in my 20s, and I became a personal trainer. And, I remember catching myself, just judging people at the gym. I would get so many new clients, and I would judge them like, oh, this one's obnoxious, and this one is pretentious, and this one's entitled, and whatnot. But I'll tell you that every single person that I started to train and got to know, they all had their own story. You start to build compassion and empathy, and you start to become less critical. Or I did. I started to become less critical because I'm like, everyone's in their own place. I'm like, don't judge until you really know what somebody else is going through. There's a whole paradigm shift of like thinking, maybe this one's going through a grieving process, or maybe this one just lost their job or whatnot. But once you get to know people, that everybody's got a story.
Mm,
Everybody's got a story. And
mm,
everybody has good in them.
mm.
You guys said so many things that I want to reply to. Oh my gosh. This is such a topic that's close to my heart. As you guys know, I've created a workshop to help people look for the good in others, and created some tools that help me do that. But yeah, I mean, I think Juji, you were saying earlier about just that you have to look at yourself first. And that's something that, when you look at others in a negative light, a lot of us will have an experience personally that might flip that. And like Lee, what you were just saying, flip it where you're like, oh, wow, I'm being judgmental. I should really, work on that. Or you just see it so clearly. But some people don't have those experiences. And I think the work and the practice really does start with us. When we look at others, you were talking about the mirroring thing. The whole mirroring thing is so interesting because I see it now that I'm looking for it. But you really, if you look at someone you don't like, there are qualities in that person that are reflected back to you inside of you. You just may not want to see those. So it's so easy to judge them and to speak poorly of them and to, just look down at them and hate on them. But I believe that that's how you're feeling about what you're seeing in yourself. And I know that can sound very woo-woo to some people. But I mean, I noticed that very clearly when I had an experience with like an older boss of mine who was very like micromanager, very, she just was constantly, the micromanaging was a little crazy, like very controlling. And I never ever believed that I was that type of person at all until I opened my own business, and probably even before that. But what comes to mind is when I opened my own business, and I just felt I needed that control so much. And it's not that I was acting in the same behavior that maybe my old boss was, coming into my office 5 minutes after asking me for something. Is that done? Is that, but there were definitely these moments of impatience that I would have that would drive me crazy. And that's when I just really saw like, wow, I am like that to some degree. And I've been like hating on that for so many years. But here I am, needing control, acting impatient, trying not to micromanage, but wanting to. But anyway, so the mirroring thing is so interesting. But yeah, I think like you said, Shira, it's such a practice, and you have to consciously like look to do it with your starting with you, and then be able to start there and then to others. And that's a practice. And I'm sure today maybe we could even share with people how we practice that, because I mean, if I was just some random person on the street, not having any experience in this type of work, I'd be like, how do I do that? I don't know. How do I all of a sudden start looking at the good qualities in myself and other people? Because that's tough, especially someone who pushes your buttons or might be mentally ill or might, just be really annoying, right?
I just had a really quick thing on the heels of what you just said. And because I was thinking about it, I'm like, is it always that you have to find the good in yourself first before you find the good in others? Or could it be a practice where you start to look at, especially people that you have a problem with or that are continually challenging, if you challenge yourself to find some good in them, you don't have to like look at them and go, oh my God, you're amazing, right? You don't have to go to an extreme, but if you start to look at them differently, like literally like close the door on your perception of them and then open up a new door and go, can I see you differently? Can that help you see yourself a little bit more gently and less critical of yourself? I'm wondering about that. Does it have to be an inside job first, or can you see someone else differently and then that helps you accept yourself? Just
I
curious.
guess you could do that, but I kind of believe that if you don't love yourself, you can't love others. It's not a possibility. That's how I look at it. So not that you have to love yourself to death to be able to like give someone a compliment. But I think that if you don't care about yourself or see any good qualities in yourself and you are hating on yourself, I don't think you'll ever be in a position where you could see the good in someone else. I don't know. Do you ladies agree with that at all?
I
Or
agree with that. I agree with that. I think there's work to be done on ourselves first and figure out and be okay with. I mean, we can look at people all day long and say, all right, what good am I seeing in this person? Even though they might be somebody we've been struggling with, right? And we may find something, they're funny or they're helpful or whatever. But when we go back to us, does it change anything in us? Are we also practicing within us the good things in us? At the same time, I think there's maybe a fine balance there.
I
Well,
guess the only thing I just want to like wrap that point up, because it's almost like it doesn't matter how you get there. If someone can practice seeing the good in someone else, and then that translates to, because me, I'm such an advocate of get it right with yourself first, but there's this practice of seeing something good in someone else, like that might be the first domino. Just throwing that out there. Anyways, Jude, what were you gonna say?
Well, I think that you can do that flipping your perspective thing and trying to see the good in that other person. But that really ends up being really temporary and very surface level if you're not okay within yourself. Because in that moment, you can be like, oh, yeah, well, they just this, they just that. Like, she just wants me to do a good job, or she must be going through something in her life, or you may even know what that person is going through, but you can't really have like deep empathy, and you can't really look at people as like, a human interconnected family if you don't have the skills within yourself to be okay. And what we end up doing is we end up telling ourselves that person is doing something to me. And the moment you realize that nobody can do anything to you, against you, they don't have that power. The minute that you can stop saying they always or they never, that's the moment when you can truly look at somebody else in whatever situation you're in and say, it's okay. I'm okay.
Good point.
They might not be okay, but I'm okay. And that's all that truly matters. And then you don't have to judge them, and you don't have to put them down, and you don't have to be angry at them. And this is not like oh, I'm totally there. I never get mad at people. I never take anything personally. But it certainly has been a road to discovering that about people. And it almost makes you have empathy for everyone. And yet it's not that you want to go save the world, it's that you just see it for what it is. And it's okay the way it is. And people are beautifully flawed the way that they are. And that's okay.
and like not making them wrong for whatever color they are or whatever they eat or whatever they drive or whatever they wear or what they do for a living. Like when everything about a person, you know, that whole negative tendency of just the judgment and the making them wrong for that thing that is just foreign to us. It's just foreign. It's not something we would eat, or it's not something we would do, or whatever. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong. And so to even look at it as just, oh, that's different. Different is good. Different is that person contributing something else to the world that's different than me. That's what makes this whole melting pot of a world so unique. So just the whole not making people wrong perspective, because I think there's a lot of that out there.
In some cases, in some challenging cases, I think with our dynamic with certain people, it's almost very difficult to not find something wrong with, let's say, what they're doing or what they're saying. It may not resonate with you. It may not be part of your own values and morals, and that's okay. but I think there's a distinction between what they do or say to you or in their life that rubs you the wrong way, and the way that you react to it, that's on you. And I think that's what Juji was talking about, is like, I am responsible for the way that I feel and the way that I respond and react to anything anybody says to me or does, or does with me, around me. There's a big difference there where we are responsible for the way that we feel. And it's not always easy to make ourselves feel, perfect in any given situation. But that is a very, very complex yet something to practice, for me anyway, also in my life. Um, Really, you can't blame anybody for what they do or say. Uh, but I think it's okay to not agree with it. And in some cases, it may be wrong. I think it's okay to put that label on it if that's how it is, resonating with you. But what you do with it and how you respond to it, I think, is a lot more of what is important.
Yeah, and it's also dependent on who you're, because we can have the general look for the good in others, whether it's the barista at the Starbucks, or whether it's your spouse or but it's a lot harder to really follow through on this practice when you have a very difficult person in your life. And obviously that can be broken down even further to someone you can't get rid of in your life versus, I could change jobs if I'm having a really tough time with a boss or a coworker, you know what I mean? So that's why doing it with the people who are closest to us is hard. But I think it's a way to soften ourselves. Like when we can start to even the most difficult person, right? They're doing the best they can with their limited capacity, right? So we can do the hard work of trying to find the good in them. And then we also, in conjunction with that, have to put down boundaries if that's what's needed in the situation. But it really is for us. When we think about it, it's for us to soften ourselves, to find a good quality in someone who's very, very challenging in our lives. So we do that for ourselves.
And to remind ourselves that everybody has good qualities. There's not one person on the planet that doesn't have a beautiful quality, that doesn't have love inside of them, that doesn't, and I know that someone could say, oh, well, what about someone who's a murderer or who does this or that? But we all have beautiful qualities. Everybody. And I know, that's a very extreme example, but even let's just say, because I have someone in my life who is unstable and, causes a lot of conflict in my family dynamic. And there was once where I sat down and I literally didn't know how to handle a specific situation. It was hurting me so badly. And I just sat and wrote a list of all the things I have seen in that person. I have seen that person has had such beautiful moments, such kind and loving moments as a parent, as a family member, as a friend, as a employee. I could name so many different times when this person demonstrated such genuine care for others and love. And when the hard times come, it's so almost impossible to see those qualities. It's almost impossible. But at the end of the day, what I think was my sort of big realization in this work and practicing this is that I'm the one, it's up to me. I get to choose whether or not I want more love in my life. If that relationship brings me love on some level, do I want that? Do I want those moments? I have a family member who just won't forgive another family member. And when I speak to that person, I remind them, if you forgave that person, you can have more love in your life, but that's up to you, and that person chooses not to, but they don't see it like that. They don't see it like, oh, I can make up with this person and we could have this like closeness and this extra love. And so I guess it's just like we all are on our own journeys with that. But I do believe that just even the smallest planting of seeds of like everyone has good in them, look for it. It's not easy sometimes, but look for it, obviously in yourself as well, which I think is one of the hardest things to do ever. But it's really comes down to like love. Like if you look at yourself in the mirror and you're able to like point out a good quality about yourself one day, maybe you said something really kind to somebody, or maybe you handled a situation really well, or maybe you just look really pretty that day and you acknowledge that to to yourself.
I'm waiting for her to sing on the good ship. Lollipop.
But I lost my point, but I think if you're able to,
You were saying how pretty I look today.
you look so pretty today, but I'm also able to say that to
I
myself.
know, right?
Oh
By the
my
way,
goodness.
Gigi, one of your best qualities that I see right now is modesty.
So humble, girl.
So humble. You know,
Anyway,
it's funny because the funny thing about what you just said, Shira, is that I did spend so many years looking in the mirror, wishing my nose was smaller, or wishing I was thinner, or wishing this, or wishing that. And once you start doing the work, whatever that means to you, it like starts becoming such a small part of your day-to-day pathology about yourself. So now I can just enjoy the fact that I love doing makeup, and then I love doing my hair different ways, and that I get to like dress up every day, even though, from the waist down, it's sweatpants most of the time.
You're giving
Because we're living in this little box right now. But that's like finding small joy like that, and sort of like not having to think from that negative perspective all the time, makes it so much easier to say, Shira, I love that sweater that you're wearing today, and the way that you did your hair is just so chic. I love this outfit that you have on, and I genuinely mean that. Like, I genuinely want to like pass on that feeling of like, don't you look snappy, because we all deserve to feel that way. Lee, you also look beautiful today, as always. Kim, you're radiantly gorgeous. I know that we're all, it's winter. It's like,
No, you actually made a
whatever.
really good point, Juge, because I actually just wanted to, so there's the looking for the good in others. And then there's also the like almost taking it to the next step of doing what you just did. You know what? I love that sweater. Your whole look is so nice. So it's one thing to think, okay, I should look for the good in others. But then when you take it to the giving a compliment or doing something that like you're actually acting on it. And I think people really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, it can make a huge impact. It can make an impact for life. You can help somebody do something, or take them out of their funk by just saying something nice.
Yeah, catch them off guard.
And it makes your soul feel so good. Like there are days when I remember, because it's not every day that I'm like, what can I do to make someone feel great today or to brighten someone's day today? But I do have a lot of days where I really think that. Like I'll be at the store and I'll be like, oh, that cashier is wearing a really pretty sweater. I should tell her that, and that will make her feel good, and in turn make me feel really good. And so there are days when I definitely sort of, pre-plan, like I'm going to make someone feel great today. That's going to make me feel good. And can you imagine if everybody walking around on the planet, like actually walked around with that thought? What can I do to brighten someone's day? Oh my gosh. But you know what? We can do that on a really micro level. Like that could be part of your practice. You could do something really small, like each day, think of one person, an aunt, a friend, a spouse, whoever, and just send them a text. Hey, thinking of you. You're wonderful. I hope you're having a wonderful day.
And also especially with potentially the person that you're having some conflict with, you know, like how out of the blue would that come across to them where they're like, what, me,
Yeah,
what?
absolutely. Yeah.
That's
And
some boomerang to me.
that small little extension of love literally can transform a relationship. It could brighten that whole person's day. It could make your entire day. Like you can just feel so good about that. It could just have such a profound impact, more than you will ever know. I actually, you guys probably know this already, but I really go out of my way with friendships to not just keep in touch, but to just always let someone know when I'm thinking of them, because I don't have all the time in the world to like catch up with friends all the time. And they're on my mind and I just want them to know that. So if I don't have time to talk to them, like I'll always just send a quick text or an email. Hey, I know I've been crazy busy. I just want you to know you are on my mind and I love you and I'm thinking of you. And sometimes it'll spark like a whole thing. Oh my God, I was just thinking about you. I feel so terrible. We haven't seen each other. I'm going through such a hard time. And then like all of a sudden you end up connecting because you don't even know what they're going through over there. So it could be so beautiful.
Yes, it can.
So
What are some of the things you guys do to look for the good in others? Like, do you guys, because I'm sure most people don't, but do you guys like consciously think about that some days during the week, or is there like, you know?
I actually do this a lot. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's challenging, but again, and it's mostly for those that I may criticize in my head or judge, or something is not right for me. But I try and turn it around. Like, what do I know about this person? What do I know? Just because they said that, like, so I've had days where I've been like that, and it's okay. It's really a paradigm shift for me, because you never know what other people are either going through or what they're thinking, or anything, and they're in a different place in their life. Everybody's going through their own phases in life, and it's really, for me, it's been like for years just trying to like not judge, and it's hard. It's very hard not to judge
Yeah.
people, but to judge as less as possible, or to just minimize that, and I think we're all better for it.
I
Yeah.
think for me, it's just remembering that we're all human beings. And when I look at my fellow human beings, I'm like, face, two eyes, nose, mouth, you got a kidney, spleen, you go to the bathroom every day like I do. Like we're all we're all on this ride of this planet at the same time right now. And so if I can use that as my baseline of you're a human, I'm a human, it's usually the personality differences that cause the conflict in most cases, but to remember how much we share as people, whether it's your annoying family member or an irritating coworker or whatever. I think just remembering that is helpful. Different perspective.
Yeah. How about you, Zhuge?
I think for me, it usually comes up if there is some sort of a conflict, or if something isn't in alignment with, how I would handle a situation. And, I always just think to myself how grateful I am that I have the ability to pause, to not be reactive to that person's whatever it is, and to be able to say, okay, I have a boundary about that, or I'm going to try and see it from your perspective. And I have so much gratitude that I have now gotten to a point where I do have the inner resources to say, that's not about me. Whatever that person is externalizing, that's not about me. It's about them, and that's okay. And everything is perfect the way it is. And let's just breathe.
Yeah. I love that. I actually have this friend. I'd love to just share this story real quick, and then we can wrap up because I think this is so beautiful what we're sharing today. But I have this friend who, at one time in her life, she like was just her biggest pet peeve was people who drove really fast and with speed, and just people who drove like lunatics on the road. She like had such a disgust for these types of people, and she really looked at it one way, like these people could kill me, could kill someone. There's no reason for it. Done and done. And until the day that she found out that her father was dying, and the doctor said, go home and get your family and come back and say goodbye. And she drove like a freaking maniac to get home. And she was like, ever since that day, I have chills even right now, just
I
sharing
have
the
to,
story.
yeah.
Like ever since that day, she's like completely shifted my whole perspective. She's like, some people could be, their wives might be in labor, or someone could have just heard really bad news that their sibling died, or she's like, and some people could be idiots.
Right.
She's like, but you really don't ever know. And she's like, so I don't judge anymore. Like there's just no
Innocent until proven guilty.
yeah. So, well, I think that's such a fantastic place to wrap it up. I thank you guys so much for sharing all of your beautiful wisdom. If you love our conversations, please click like and subscribe to our channel. Tell a friend, spread the word. Please also let us know if you have any comments or questions, or if there's a topic that you would like to request. We would love that. We'll see you soon, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you.